Hello everybody, back with the voice series. Yeah, I've been delayed also yesterday. This jet lag is killing me and I had to do some questions. Went back quite to finish. So, sorry, I've delayed for a little. I'm here. Poster presenter, first timer. And okay, I will put some of the videos with my thoughts from this first timer at the Voice Foundation Symposium. Fantastic symposium, really loved it. Not only because I was a presenter, but especially because it was really interesting. The program that you have in here and you find still online, I think, sorry, something of allergic came into my throat, was a rich program. There were, as you can see, I will show you some thematic days that gave the pace of the days that we have to be in there. Voice pedagogy, Comet meeting, the first day, the Wednesday. Perhaps you're going to see that. Workshops, keynote, respiration for voice, Voices of Summer Gala, where we danced and we had the pleasure to see the awards to Angelique Kidjo, to Kathleen Turner, and to other two relevant, to hear some of the voice scientists sing. Yeah, fantastic. I loved it. I love when people sing, of course. Otherwise, I would do something else. A panel on the voice and aging that was really passionate and interesting for the solutions that are there, and for which, with my students, when they are quite of an old age, I will think about, because sometimes it is cost benefits and goal-oriented. So not always the training is the most part, can be just a part, and it's nice to see and to put in perspective when to put in the center the training and when to put in the center something else. Medical session. From the medical session, they are trying to do something with the platelet and to regenerate vocal cords. They put some fat with excellent results. They are working on some pectins to moisturize the vocal cords. It wasn't clear how it goes there. They say it goes because from the mouth with the respiration it goes to the lungs and to the vocal folds. I don't know in what quantity, but it's a great thing to think about because it is not so costly. It comes from apples, absolutely not toxic. It goes into form of a gel that you put into your mouth and you maintain there for some time. We will see. There were interesting findings on the Lombard effect. The Lombard effect is the fact that when you up your accompaniment for singers, it is known that they get less able to sing well when they are not at a high level of skill. Beyond a certain level, it has no effect. So the thing, as usual, it is, and it is what we are putting into the accent, that there are differences on many parameters before a certain level and after a certain level, from all the parameters. And this is something that especially voice teachers and voice coaches and those working in voice pedagogy have to know. And me, I work specially to get to a certain level, to be a certain kind of pro, if you want, even if you will not get completely professional. But I work with a spirit of professionalism and asking a certain professionalism. And there is a dividing into those who will have the pleasure to do something even relevant, but for one time, and it's something that I talk about into the dialogues with interesting people, because it comes out. And it comes out that there is a great difference between those that will do one song, one phase of their life with very high level, very high reaching also, not lower reaching, very high reaching, but just one time. And then they will not reproduce it, and those that will reproduce it. The difference is that, from my point of view, the first do in a certain way, they will not get to a training level and a trained level and a skillful level, firstly. The second, they have to get there to have a second phase and then a third and then a fourth, etc. relevant. Because my idea, my opinion there, for the first burst, all human beings have something of very important and very interesting and very peculiar and very specific. And again, important, not special, but important. And again, it's a difference, because special takes you away from the other human beings. Important makes you between the other human beings, but with something relevant into the life and contribution we are giving to human life and to general life and arts and to can be any field. And I'm for being important and relevant and fundamental, but not special. You're not a different kind of human being. This was a 20th century thing. That the thing was, so the Lombard effect, if you have it, it tells you what? That you have to upgrade still your technique. You have to get there. And then it will not be relevant, because you will have completely other ways of being adapted into what you're doing. So what I was saying is that we have a complete different view of the questions when we really work with people making job and doing the job. And the others that just they teach. Those who will love doing it for one time. And there is something that sometimes students that come to me because they understand that I'm top level, quite good, but they think that my top level can be at the place of their working. And of course it's not. When you're top level, you simply create conditions to get into a different place if you train. If you don't train, you're untrained. And we cannot have the results into an untrained system that we have into a trained system. And training is your responsibility. If you never sing, and never means you never sing. Not in public, not every day, at least some quantity. You don't exercise, you don't sing, you don't practice. I can make you sound better, but you're still untrained. You will be very slow. My job is to give true tools. And true tools is, at least you have to train a little. Train, practice, going out singing, etc. You cannot, it's a physical thing. It's a mind and emotional thing that gets into a physical thing. Somewhere you have to do it. If you don't, we are talking nothing. And especially, you want to put on the lessons what you're not doing. It doesn't cheat. It's not a system that cheats. And that's very nice, because if you do yours, at least a little, it goes very far. So, what I wanted to talk about today, the imaginative one. I will put the videos. Hi all, I'm in Philly. I'm thinking about my presentation tomorrow. And sincerely, I have some doubts if how to put the thing. How to put the first poster, especially. Because the first poster is about the hips and sacroiliac joint.
And the fact is, it is absolutely fundamental for voice production, but it was overlooked. In the past, it is, what is the research saying, what is the biomechanical findings say, what anatomy, what orthopedy, why of its importance, especially if you've seen my PVOC presentation. But the thing is, but why should they have to read the poster? That is my first question. Do they think that they should read that poster because it's important for voice production? Because it's...
So I will stop. Now we put the videos of the thoughts I had during those long days. What was fantastic is that I've been debated, I've been screened. That's fantastic, because it's exactly what it has to be. The posters will be in the form of an Apple book that I'm putting out with the homemade saddle chair there. And I will make one on why it is important, on the planes of motion on which it is important. So if you want to sustain a little this research I'm doing, because I'm not paid for that. I'm not a researcher paid by an institution to do those. I do it on myself because I think it's important, because as they've said, I have relevant results since a lot of time, totally unusual, totally unseen. I know, it's some 15 years that they happen. They were not acknowledged for two reasons. One, I was really in bad shape for my health, meaning that I had to stay at private life with a lot of hospitalizations, of treatments many times a year. So it was not exactly in conditions to have the energy to do much more than develop, invent cossumethod for my clients, because I invented it on my clients' needs and my level. And second, I used to explain it too much in vocal jargon. So only those from my level and up could understand what I was doing. They did not really understood, because I'm really into a different place of vision. As I say, I just make a step forward, but this step forward is a 90 degrees rotation. So I see different things. But when I wanted to explain them, if you explain them into vocal jargon, you will not be effective. Because it is not objective, and you're not exactly describing what you're doing. So all the effort that I made, since I have a preparation into it has become biomechanical view from a training horse's point of view, because I was specialized into reversing them beyond the defensiveness. Because if you study what the defensiveness does into the biomechanical system, you can graduate this response into the muscles. And when you graduate this response into the muscle, you graduate this response also into the output of the autonomous nervous system. Because what you have to realize is that concentric and eccentric are not natural. Also, not only natural, they are not symmetrical. The concentric has a neuronal output, and the eccentric asks for a different neuronal output, downregulated. So if you reverse or you augment some eccentric, sometimes you will not have the reflexes acting, because the reflexes will act on the concentric, and you are reverting, so you are having that muscle working on the eccentric that is yet downregulated. And this changes everything. Everything. I want to make you an example. I will make the one with the basketball next time, but this time I tried another way. When I say big box, small box, you can think that as the poster has a big box with a smaller box inside. Being the smaller the vocal one, the smaller is into the bigger. They are independent in some ways, share some parts, and even something more tricky as the cervical segment. I take my fantastic. You see, I have two. I have a big one. Which is this one, the main one, okay? It is the big one. I did put that just to have some tone, we can say. And then on top of that, I have the small one that is in front, a little bit like our vocal system. That is this one, okay? So we have big one and small one. I want to do some things with small one, and I'm doing things that are boom, 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 boom. I tend here, I do some muscles. What does big box? It follows. How? In some ways, okay? So, but if I change big box, and for example, when you are defensive or with some specific dysfunctions that come also from sitting, standard sitting at 90 degrees, you will have a situation when you are defensive, you are pushing, and the end of range of motion, a lot of muscles. Okay? Those muscles will be chronically in that state of contraction, and what you call stiffnesses, what you call tensions, what you call is contracted. No, it's simply all the time working into something. I cannot put that, to put some other things here. I still have my... It is like that, okay? You want to do the same thing as before. Can I actually do them? No. If I open, you remember, it was quite flat. It is different. Because big box acts into the system. So you want to obtain that to be flat. And you say, this voice doesn't respond. No, this voice has another environment. It responds perfectly to the environment it has. So we have to do what? Gestures and practices to take away the dysfunctional what will remain? It can be as before. If you're untrained, for example, you avoid there. So, if you access, you will not have the capacity of this system to act, because it will go not that good. Am I clear like that? Big box, small box. They are related. Of course, they use some parts in common. And a vocal system is not floating in the nothing. It uses some muscles. So there comes the biomechanics, to be precise. But the first thing is your big box in conditions to be the good big box for small box. That's where I started. For the symposium was minimal terms of the question in which we have at least enough functionality and enough tone and enough related forces. A functionality is into the muscles, into the fascia, into the tendons, into the ligaments, because the ligaments are those telling the brain to activate the opposite. From Indiana University, they told me cocontractions. No, coactivations, they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. can be useful, the cocontractions, for some specific systems and for some specific styles and situations. Yes, they can be of use, but it's not the norm and it's not the basis of functionality. What is the difference? The difference is that when the ligament is correct in its shape, in its state, in its reactivity, because we can have defensive strategies from the fascial system, not clear is from the fascia surrounding the muscles or the ligaments, they are still fascia. This has to be clarified. So we don't know everything, but we know that can be some reflexes from all the trauma that remain in the time, so that even if it is in good shape, it will not act or behave, if you prefer, as its state. But it will activate in different ways. Defensive system again. So it is a question that is into the plate. And is why I separated the two things, the usual functionality from the defensive system, because there are two questions that for voice are really central, absolutely central. We work with the autonomous nervous system, so of course it's an ingredient fundamental. Without the regulation of the defensive system, the defensive system is directly a tool to sing for many reasons. Just not to be deactivated. That's why I'm against the relaxation practices as the only way of working on. Can be fantastic, but it's not the only way. And to me, it's not convenient to put everybody there. It will be for another episode. But the biomechanical system is the basis. Okay? So, when the ligament is in correct shape, at a certain moment, according to speed, load, power, tension, position, that creates a tension, it will by the brain directly. You don't feel it. You don't feel this activation. That's fantastic. Because you don't have to think about. It will activate the antagonist. That is called coactivation. The cocontractions is that you activate the antagonist. And since you are not good in the action as the level of regulation of the coactivation, it is not so convenient to put the cocontraction at the place of the coactivation. Every time it is possible, it is better to develop the system to have the coactivations, because it has the nuances. It has all the nuances. It is what we call the negative feedback. We all the time work on negative feedback. And the traditional practices, and the good practices, and the successful practices, and the good singers, what is not understood, as I said last time, is that or if I didn't say, I say here because I wrote it into one of my posters, how can I say, perceptions that we talk about and the references we talk about are into the coactivations and the effect of the coactivations into the system. The system not only behaves differently when it is coactivated, when it is maintained coactivated, because for all the action it will remain coactivated, but especially it will give different references. And all the references from a certain level higher are on those. That's why when you are not trained, it's difficult for us to make you understand. Those students that they don't train, they think I will have to understand and so I will have the motivation to get to the references where it's fun. No, you have to train before the system. Then the system starts being the coactivated system and then it starts being fun. But before a certain level of training, it will not coactivate correctly. It will not be fun. It will just say, I'm not at the minimal level to start being fun and to start being understandable. I will make next week for the basketball. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you next time. When I say big box, small box, you can think that as the posture as a big box with a smaller box inside, being the smaller the vocal one. Take my fantastic I have two. I have a big one, the main one, okay? It is the big one. And then on top of that, I have the small one that is in front, a little bit like our vocal system, okay? So we have big one and small one. I want to do some things with small one, things that are boom, 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 boom. I do some muscles. What does big box? It follows. But if I change big box, you will have a situation, a lot of muscles like that, okay? You want to do the same thing as before. Can I actually do them? No. If I open, you remember, it was quite flat. It is different. Because big box acts into the system. So you want to obtain that to be flat. And you say, this voice doesn't respond. No, this voice has another environment. It responds perfectly to the environment it has. So you have to do what? Practices to take away the dysfunctional. It can be as before. Big box, small box. There you have it. This rose garden